Welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum on this, the St. George's Day. Good excuse to get to the pub. Not that they need much, but there you go. So, happy St. George's Day. So I just thought I'd chill on because I've not done anything. I've been head fixed in this low nonsense, so I've not really put it together. But I've got a couple of bits and bobs together. Bit of Bitcoin in El Salvador. Because that's what they set up as legal tender in 2021. So we'll have a little look at that. That might float some interesting stuff. What else have we got? I had a look at some other stuff. Well, yeah, not much. Anyway, Ukraine, not really much going on there, is there really? It's just a lot of crap. But have you noticed this white hats, black hats being shoved everywhere? It's quite pathetic. It's really shit, actually. Because, yeah, white hats, well, it's not nothing new. It pretty much comes from this. So, when you're looking at the Q stuff, some of the turds that are pushing this idea that there's a good team versus a bad team, and one team is resting all the bad team, putting actors in instead, all because all this good stuff's going on and all these naughty boys are being executed, etc., etc. I mean, it's a complete fantasy, let's be quite honest. It's a fantasy. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's look at Origin White Hats. So we're looking at Freemasonry. This is from their own thing. 33-degree Masons are sometimes referred to as white hats within the fraternity because, as we talked about in the previous topic, the colour of the Scottish Rite Masons' regalia hat communicates different things about that member, such as whether he is a regular member, an officer or recipient of some other honour. So white hats beat black hats. Yeah, Scottish Rite Masonry. There you go. So I thought that's important because wherever you go now on the Faceache or out like that, if you're watching through any video, the next thing that's coming up is somebody talking about the white hats. The white hats are groovy and amazing. They're going to save the world and all this is going on. You don't need to think about it anymore. It's all being taken care of. 60 days they're going to bag it. And it's like, why are people getting into that? It's like just a little bit spurious, if you ask me, especially if it's coming from the 33rd degree. So I don't know. So I thought we'd slip that in because it's everywhere and it seems to be gaining a momentum that we are all to believe white hats versus black hats, or the checkerboard, which I don't know, are Americans sucking it up? Or have people realised it's just the Q-tard stuff hiding itself in all sorts of other avenues to take you away and off the game? And I don't know, but it just sounds a bit ridiculous to me, that people are now starting to talk white hats. Well, white hats are coming to save us. And okay, I understand it to a point, but bringing, say, the military is going to take everything over. Well, that's what everybody worried about before with the FEMA camps in the US, etc. These super prisons here. So that even wouldn't be a really good thing right now, would it, neither? So, I don't know, it's a bit odd. So there's some odd stuff going on, but there's some stranger scripts being pushed out there, isn't there? A bit the white hats and these black hats, I don't think people should take it right serious, to be honest. I think it's just a script. It's a script to keep people... It's this left-right divide again, isn't it, which they've achieved through the trumpet. So who knows what's going down there. The priesthood side of things are Third Temple talking. So how are they going to achieve that without demolishing the mosque? I don't know, unless it's to do with these agreements that are getting taken up. Of late, could have something to do with that. Some weird and interesting agreements, allyships going on. just a little bit more research into what I presented last week as potential, that they were saying there were 50 special forces from UK. It doesn't look like there's any of our forces over there apart from maybe X and now private mercenary. So if they're being classed as UK or US, they're perhaps just mercenaries that are from them nations, and obviously used to be a member of each specific military. So it doesn't look like it's just been a lot of wind and fluff in it, so that Vlad can move in there up to the river, as he said, and whatever plans they've got for that area, more than likely, as it is, it's taking it off Europe, because there's problems at G7 potentially that they're going to sanction Russia again on imports, and he's threatened to crush the grain deal that they've got going on with the EU. I mean, whichever way you look at it, the EU isn't really handling itself very well at all. Worrying, I'd say so, especially since we're being dragged in again by his asshole, which is what they're doing, because it's all hush hush, secret. PESCO, for instance, Liz Truss, not good that. Our military now doing what they're told by the EU. It's not good. I mean, you've got all this talk. It doesn't even look like this Ukraine thing's going to blow unless something out of the ordinary happens. It just looks like it was a planned game. Everything was green lighted when he kicked it off, and away it went. He wanted the land back. He's going to get the land back, and now the deals on the harvests of all the grain and such that the Ukraine produces has shifted hands. But Europe, it's getting annihilated, isn't it, in a lot of ways, and it's the European commissioners that are doing it. So, do we really want to be going into that? Also, I picked some of it up earlier in the week. So I don't know whether you've seen them on these Facebook things where somebody's putting together data and putting it in graphs with some jingle jangle music. But I found a couple this week, but one was particularly interesting and showing economies. And surprisingly, wartime era, Australia and New Zealand were right up there as wealthy nations, far beyond the UK, which is just done the wars kind of thing. And so did Australia and New Zealand. So that's interesting. I mean, Churchill was commissioned to annihilate as close to 70,000 Anzacs as he could. That's Australians and New Zealand forces, which he achieved almost at Gallipoli. But yet, so what was there a prize handed over there? But that were an interesting thing to watch. But there were another one as well, and I forgot what that were now. It might come to me. Anyway, who's on board? Untitled says, hello Sean and friends, good evening to you. Paul, PY Music says, evening all, good evening Paul. Mark says, evening. Mew says, good evening one and all, and regular family. Slipknot says, good evening to you, Mew. Slipknot, mind control over. Back to business. Alright Sean, alright everyone. Mind control over. Oh, you mean the alert? Well, so I have a Samsung, because obviously I need a good camera for if I'm out and about doing any gigs kind of thing, or gigs appear. But there's no Sims in them or anything like that. And I've gone through, and I've that, and I've a Huawei, which I've had for a long, long time. And I think because I stopped the updates a long time ago during COVID, it's starting to disintegrate, so it doesn't really work. So there's no SIM in that either. So anyway, I went through both of them, did all the developer options, turned everything off, which I've put on my Facebook, I've talked about on here, and turned them off. And nothing. Also, there's a thing as well, airplane mode. Have you thought you can actually keep it in airplane mode when it's in your pocket if you're not expecting a call? If you don't want it to be disturbed, airplane mode as well, that's another block, isn't it? But suffice to say, none of them did any noise or such. and nor has it stored it in the background anywhere and beeped it on when I tried them after. So the developer options and success with that works. But more importantly, the phone what I do use is a phone, an old little Nokia. You got 20 quid or 25 quid. Not a murmur. No connection to any of that malarkey in there. So I'm thinking to myself, should we give Nokia a great revival for being such good eggs and keep making these things? Now I have to be fair, and it's the hard work at first. You're a nightmare, especially when you're texting, because they're nothing like these smart cookies. And you fumble about, lock around all over the show, and it's a bit of a nightmare. But you do get used to them. The sound quality isn't all the rage either, I have to say, and sometimes I can actually struggle to listen to what people are saying. So it does have its pitfalls, but I didn't get any bazooka through my phone today, loud noises and such. Nothing, not a zilch, not a zitto. So I know that is outside of that system, it's outside of all that crap. And so if you're on your phone and you want to be out of that all day, then there you go. You're still accessible by message, and you can ring a ding and they can ring a ding back. So it's only Google and all that comes with it that's out of that. And as I said, if you've just joined us, going through the developer options, which I did on these smartphones, I do have with no SIMs in because they're just for camera. Not a murmur. You turn it all off with the developer permissions, and you've got control of your device as far as you want to go. You're never going to get the big boys out, the geolocation, unless you're building your own, such as a Pine. You start with that, and you have to add a Linux system, and then you build your phone based on what you want. So you just want messages, well, you build the message platform. You want it telephone. You want it to do images, all the video, you can build it yourself. But you're not using any of those companies' software, and therefore you're not being tracked by those companies, and nor are you in any way, shape or form using them. So there are ways and means around that, but the giving yourself, and I mean everybody should have developer permissions on the smartphone anyway. It's your device. You should have full control of it. And it's a good thing. Everybody, whether you're worried about these alerts or not, you should all open up those developer permissions and give you more control over that little device that you can't do without a lot of people. But yeah, developer permissions works. It works a treat on two phones. But obviously the phone that I use as a phone, nothing. And it was turned on. I never switched it off. It was turned on all day. It hasn't murmured. So maybe it's only using 3G. Because they said it's a 4G, every 4G and 5G phone. But I believe as well, a couple of days before, didn't they put on everybody's phone a new app called Home? How sneaky is that? Because of course there were so many people turning these emergency alerts off. So the sneaky little bugaloos put your new app on, and if you didn't notice it, that would have been enough to counteract everything you've done with the developer permissions, because that app give it full access again. So that were a bit sneaky. So you think about it, how sneaky are those that are using this technology? Why would you want to be in agreement with them? Because you are in agreement with them. We go, it's disgusting what they're doing, it's outrageous. Well, yeah, because they're all fruitcakes. But you go, alright then, I'll have that. And moan about it. It's like, what's actually going on there? You know what I'm saying? Now, if it were our state that had built this network, instead of British Telecom privatised, then we would have a take on it and a say on it, and we could dictate the terms that way, but we don't, because the private companies, they can decide to do what they want. But we're in agreement, isn't it? That's the ridiculous side of it, and people don't even see that. But that's the that's where you've got to start sort of looking. You've got to look from that perspective. They're all tapped. They're offering up all these pets, these prizes, all this nonsense. But ultimately, it only comes into play if you say, oh, okay then, and agree and take it on. So, anyway, there you go. But it works. Developer permissions works a treat. Plus, you should all have it. Have a good look through your phone and look at what you don't need on. You don't need that on. Why would they want to have access to that? Off you go. But ultimately, if you want to get rid of that, you'd have to remove the entire Google Play services. And the other one, what's the other one? There's the two major Google systems in a phone that give it all these operations the access. Anyway, but it works, permissions. So you don't really need to go to that degree. You really don't. And I think also during this time there are some people have been putting up data to show how you do it on an iPhone, which is not that much dissimilar, but obviously the different menus and such stuff. But even you think, give yourself developer permissions and away you go. Much more control over the device itself. Especially if you think about when you're walking through town, you've got all these particular places that are activating your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi, if you've not already got it on, and just having a little scan inside your phone and seeing what you've been up to. You can stop that. You can stop that if you stop anything and everything from activating Wi-Fi. It just means you have to go into it and activate Wi-Fi if you want to use it in a shop. But remember, everywhere you use your device in another's building, you're on their system, they're collecting data. That phone's tied to you. They're collecting data just by definition of the fact you're using the Wi-Fi. So that's how important it is, isn't it? It's quite ridiculous. It's everywhere, but you can mitigate it, which is the best you can do, or just get rid of it altogether, which would probably be the absolute answer, and it'd destroy the whole system. But I can't see that happening anytime soon. That's a fact. Mind control over back to business. So yeah, keep that off. Paul says, good evening Sean, everyone. Good evening Paul. Mute says hello Paul, Martin, Trev. Me says hello me. Polarization. So did any of you get the alert? Did you get it? Did it come through? What did it sound like? Did it scare you? Do you now feel safe? Do you feel like Big Brother's got your back? And you must obey even more if they come with another fantasy, which you see it rattling on in background there. There's a couple of them in there going on. So what's that? Wayne says, evening everyone, hope you're all well. Hello to you, Wayne. We're all well. Did you get beeped by the beep? Mewpit says, just been sent a message saying that Yanks are going to be drilling for oil and gas in Ukraine. Not checked it out yet. Well, that's what they had available to them since 2014, so why would they want to do it right now? I mean, America's got massive oil reserves. They found one back in the day up in Alaska. Huge things. Somebody actually, who would he call? He was an ex-vicar, I think, or they don't call him pastor to the elites. And he was the so-called insider giving information, and apparently they'd found huge oil reserves up in Alaska that they were putting on hold in case they needed them during the war. So it's not like America doesn't have it all. It doesn't need anybody else. I think it just needed to control everything else back in the day on the petrodollar because it could then use everybody else's. It was a good idea, really. Good evening all on St. George's Day. Good evening to you, June, also on St. George's Day. Good evening, June, says Paul. Cos says, howdy with the gigs on. Howdy, Cos. Mine Racer, BlackRock have already signed contracts to rebuild Ukraine. Yep, I've seen that. Yeah, that's true. They're also setting up now to purchase all this, the property and commercial properties especially. They're going to be coming up are coming unstuck by whomever owns is running the lease on it, so, or mortgage or whatever. So they're getting ready now to start scooping up real estate. The banks have already set that up in the background so that well, if the interest rates don't get you the wind and rain garbage that they're going to expect you to do to all these properties will, who's going to be able to afford to do it? And plus, once looking at the way our housing is there here, you couldn't do it. You'd have no room left if you were to put this insulation nonsense on that they're having them do in Europe. It's just ridiculous, but that's the plan. But it's the background getting ready to scoop it up that's the problem, and BlackRock is in there. Australia has vast natural resources, wealthy as a result. Yes, it does. Not a surprise they fared well on a comparison graph. Well, it was an interesting graph because I'd never seen it like that before. So you were looking at basically going through the manoeuvres that have gone on after the Second World War, I think. And up was raised Australia and New Zealand way above Old Blatty, which surprised me. Mine says emergency signal is stage 3. Not everyone received the signal, only the ones selected. Emergency signal as stage 3. What? So you mean there's been 2 other stages so far? Is that the one they did during the bug script? Because that's when I first started and got into the developer permissions and stopped that system being put on the telephone. But I haven't let it update since, so the Android system, I think itself it went a bit spazzed out. It kept spazzing out on me, I'd be able to call to somebody and just start ringing other people up, which were a bit odd, and then you'd try doing a message and you'd start flipping. And I think that's what happens with phones when the Android system doesn't get its updates. So I've been told. If you know different, pray tell. So it's stage 3. What do you mean there? Mine is Nokia are good and secure, hence police use them for communications. They were gangster, weren't they, back in the day? You could throw them off. I mean, who hasn't dropped them off a roof and still working? The Nokias were pretty solid stuff, and it's a European company, isn't it, as well? They didn't when I worked for them. Ray, who's that? Nokia are good and secure. Oh, did you work for Nokia, Debbie? Pray tell. But the phones, I know they give out the most juice, though, didn't they? As well, they were the most potent of all the phones back in the day. But I have still got that little tiny thing that I thought they called. Some at 8210 is it? And I did try to get it going, and I put a new battery in it, but I couldn't get a SIM card to connect. But it's a tidy little thing, and they were the best phones by far. You didn't even know you had them in your pocket. But sometimes you could feel the energy coming off from it. Well, quite a lot if you've been on the call for a bit. PY says switch mine off and put them in the microwave. Used it as a Faraday box. So you didn't get one then. But you just need to just tap into them developer permissions, Paul. Honestly, the amount of stuff you can get into when that opens up is massive. Does not make any difference, PY. What, because you put it in... Oh, please tell me mine race. Yeah. Wrap your phone in foil, stick it in the microwave, switch it off, reset your phone, makes no difference. If they want to access your phone, they will access your phone. Well, I think what they tend to do, if they're onto you, they give themselves administrator rights on your phone, so you're no longer the administrator. They basically took over your phone, and you become the secondary, a user. So that's what happens. So, and you can check that. Because if there's I can't remember how you do it now, but if there's certain things that you can't do on your phone, it's because somebody else has taken over administration rights of your device. And that could be police, that could be intelligence. It could be Accus. It could be anything. 77 Brigade, 8200, Unit 8200. It could be anything like that. That's what they do. And then they've got full access to your device. Yeah. Where are we? If they want to, yeah. Because 1973 says no alert for me with the gigs on, the sun gigs. Mine says, like I said, BY, not everyone received the signal. Hang on. Well, okay, we'll have a look at that in a minute. When you say not everyone, are you talking about not everyone even on 4G and 5G? Because I think 3G didn't get it, did it? Which is probably what that's on, although does it say? It doesn't even say. It's that basic. No alert for cause. Mine says, should I say not everyone needed to receive the signal? Huh? What does that mean? You badden. Being a bit cryptic there, eh? POS says, cause that's because you're ace. Norway's high up on the list, Sean, because they are in credit. They are noon. No one. Norway. There was something dodgy about Norway not long ago. There was just something to do with it. No, I can't remember. Norway's high up the list, Sean, because they are in credit. And Debbie says, no, when I worked for the plot. They weren't Nokia. No, what were they called? They were dangerous. I wrote a lot about it because a lot of couples were getting cancers. What were it called? It was a system, weren't it? And I forgot. You might be able to remind us there, Debbie. Wayne says, I got beat, and it had a voice message in Yankee tongue saying, this is an emergency alert, be advised. What best action to take? Being aboard a fire extinguisher and a dinghy, obviously. Well, yes, of course, get the dinghy out. I've got a kayak. So I'm rocking, I'm ready. I'm ready to do the ark business. I've been taking no animals with me. Just the fittest bird I can grab off street before all Armageddon kicks off, and away we go, as sailing. Of course, I'm joking. There's nobody getting in my boat. Especially not a female, for God's sake. They'd be net, but chattering. You'd use all your energy listening, wouldn't you? Which is no good when you're going to be, on the seas, starving. You can't have all chatty about it. Actually, if they've got a good thigh on them, that'd feed you for a month, wouldn't it? So take some fire with you if you're going to do that, just so that once you've chopped leg off, you can stick it on a bit of embers and she'll shut up, screaming. Of course, we're joking. Nobody's suggesting you kidnap a female and eat them. We're not doing that. It's a joke. Don't get excited, anybody, for God's sake. So, anyway. So, it were a Yankee tongue, were it? Oh, now then. So, that's the NSA getting right in there, is it? Wayne says, also, I didn't turn the alert off just to see if I was on the list. Okay. I never received anything either. That's my iPhone 13 Pro Max. Nothing. That's June. Husky says, yo. Mine says you can't switch your phone off. You used to be able to remove the battery, but they then asked the manufacturers to make it so you can't now. Yeah, that's true. You should just... Why don't you build yourself a little wooden box? Or don't build it, buy it, and let deadline it. Tim says, I have my mouth full, not chattering. Okay, Deborah. Cos says, 2 eyeballs and a lips. Again, and I still have no idea what that means. Mine says second stage COVID. Oh, so the bug script was the second stage, brought up fault. So third stage, They only sent signals to phones that had the fault in the software. So you're suggesting serious skullduggery there, and that all those that think we're amazing and did all the little prepping have been scuppered. Is that what you're saying there, yo, Raymond? That's disgraceful. And Untitled says cannibalism. Quite right. That was an outrageous suggestion by me about getting and creating your own ark when Armageddon drops on London. But of course, we're that far away from London, we wouldn't care because we wouldn't even feel it. We'd just have to get them set up in Derby and Nottingham across to, and block them from running up here and spreading the madness. Anyway, of course, I'm only joking. We don't like Southerners, and that's it. One or two, there's some of you that are alright, but majority of you is tough. Anyway, enough of that naughtiness, because it does offend some people if we slag each other off. Anyway, right, so what did I have to have a goof on, Cat? We had, here we go, so if I transition that, alright, yeah, the alerts. And it says, why did I get an emergency alert on my phone and what is it for? And this is the Independent, 4 hours ago. It says millions of phones across the UK sounded with a siren, for golly, as part of a test for a new national emergency alert system. The loud alarm was planned to ring at 3 PM on all devices that were used in 4G and 5G networks in the UK. See, I thought that's what it said. All phones that were using 4G and 5G. It says the alert rang for 10 seconds. 10 seconds? And displayed a message notifying phone users that no action was needed in response to the test. A man takes a photo of his smartphone in Kiev, Ukraine, showing the Air Alert application, which shows oh my god, you can see what they're playing at here, can't you? Oh. The message said, this is a test of emergency alerts, a new UK government service that will warn you if there's a life-threatening emergency nearby. In a real emergency, follow the instructions in the alert to keep yourself and others safe. Oh. See, are they going to prove service with you? They're not proving no service with me. I'm on 2G. I mean, God. Really have to... This getting rid of service on... Oh, no, it's not good. It's really not good. And then it says, this is a test, you do not need to take action. Phone users are prompted to swipe away the message or clicking OK on their home screen before being able to continue using their device. See, you've contracted, your device now is in contract with whatever this is, and they're obviously withholding what it actually is all about. Drivers are advised not to look at or touch their phones. Can you imagine if everybody had crashed? No, wouldn't have that been hilarious? That would have been funny, that, to be honest. Drivers are advised not to look at or touch their phone until it is safe, just as when receiving any call or a message. So you haven't to shit yourself until you've pulled over and turned off the engine and had a look. Some smartphones also read out the messages to recipients. Oh, and so you got that one, didn't you? And it was Joe Biden. Following the test, some users reported receiving the message a minute or so early. Ooh. However, others said the phone did not display the message or make a sound. Phones that were powered off or switched to airplane mode were not expected to sound. Ah, see, there you go, airplane mode. The system is modelled on similar schemes in the... Well, it just means it didn't say anything, didn't it? I think that's what Ray is hinting at there. Just because it didn't scream at you doesn't mean it didn't say... Yeah, but no. It kind of done though, can it, Ray? Because if you had to swipe it before you could use your phone again, then... Oh, is that the phones that weren't allowing it in on the updates? Ah. Now then, that could be it, couldn't it? The ones that had blocked it in the last game. Okay, maybe. The system is modelled on a similar schemes in the US, Canada, and the Netherlands and Japan. So they're already going on in US, Canada, Netherlands, and Japan. Domestic violence campaigners warn the test could put people in danger by revealing locations of secret phones hidden away by those at risk. What? Oh, okay. The government said it has been actively engaging with organisations working with vulnerable women and girls to ensure they are not adversely affected by the introduction of emergency alerts. Well, what happens to them boy girls? You know, they'll be scared and their vaginas will start to burst and things like that. Why are you just protecting women and girls? What about the boys that wear the man bags and cry when they get pimples on their nose? I think it's a bit sexist, that. Officials stress that it is easy to opt out of the system if people need the phone to stay concealed, either by turning off emergency alerts in the settings or simply having the phone switched off during the test. Yeah, but it doesn't stop them. We're not going to know when they're going to do it again, are you? Yeah, anyway. The test on St George's Day coincided with major events including the London Marathon and the 2 p.m. kick-off Premier League ties between Bournemouth and West Ham and Newcastle and Tottenham Hotspur. Officials said they had worked with the Football Association and the marathons organised to make sure the impact of the test will be limited. So there you go. And that's it. So that's it on the test. Oh, we've got a bit of an issue. Come on, get open. Now then. Oh, why is that still there then? Well, I don't know why that's still there, because that should have shifted over to something else. So I'm just going to have to hit that because it's not. Oh, that's because I locked it. Okay, got it. Sorry about this, chaps. I just have to. It's not working properly. It's not letting me get onto any more things. I have to do that. Okay, sorry. Oh dear. There we go. No, that's in business. So there is the alert system. So that's interesting. With what Ray's saying, I wonder if that's it. Because I know when I did it back in the old book script, it was because of a particular update that everything we're getting, we're putting in this new system, this track and trace, weren't it? So that's why I did it the first time. And I never updated the device from that time, so it never got to go in. So I'm quite sure that's another probable reason why it's not in there. But I'll have to check the other one that I use for a camera, because I haven't. But there's no SIMs in them. I know that doesn't stop the location and such like, but I'm pretty sure it prevents any use of microphone or anything like that, because, well, I don't know actually, I don't know. Let's have a look. It says, where is the line between north and south? Derby, Deborah. Actually, to be truth, we have to, as long as we just ring fence Birmingham, you might be alright. You know, Birmingham and, you see, Norfolk's quite good and Suffolk's quite good. They're quite nice places. I wouldn't want to. Anyway, it just has to be a new agent showing his wall across Derby, right through to where them Welsh guys speak that funny language. Because it's just not acceptable anymore that you keep encroaching the southern ideas up here. I mean, you've got Manchester well excited. This mayor is a complete fruitcake. He is the government speak. He is a talking head. But Manchester's excited. I've never seen so many high-rises in my life. They've gone up in, 10 years, these high-rises in Manchester. I mean, it was just a souped-up town up until this lot cracked on. So, you could say when Oasis ended, so too did Manchester as it used to be. Because it's getting to the point where it's unrecognisable with these skyscrapers. And when I looked into that, not a single one of these builds is financed from anybody on these isles. So what are they for? Yes, we've all been played, but it worked, says Mind Racer. Cannibalism equals cabbage. Okay. Debbie says, where is the... Oh, you've done that. Me says, I don't know anyone who got the experimental warning. Maybe try again in a few days, keeps persons distracted. Well, Ray's suggesting that not everybody were tired to get it, so, and that's deliberate. So maybe you're trying to... Oh, they don't want you to turn your phone off. So maybe all the gullible ones have got it. Because they know that they're going to be waiting for it eagerly. Oh, I got me alert. How happy am I? Text everybody. I got mine. I'm well, fantastic. I've got 4 stars. So yeah, my credit rating's gone up 1 point. Because I listened to the alert and I'm ready. Anyway. So there'll be all them kind of people, won't they? So maybe it's the ones that they know is going to switch it off. They're going to do it at midnight. Just as you're going into changing into a vampire. Or a werewolf, or whatever it is you get up to when you go to bed. You'll probably hear over the next few days that some individuals did not receive the signal. Their explanations will be error. When in fact, like I said, not everyone needed to receive a signal. Well, I went for my old tea tonight, and the place itself, all its tills had gone down on the old digital, so they couldn't take card payments. And he said to me that half at Northwest apparently had suffered that same thing. So I'm wondering, did this little beepity beepy attack the cash machine, the tills for all these shops? That's a good thing because it means everybody's to get out cash. So maybe it's not as fantastic as they thought. And maybe it's caused a lot of problems. And that's why they didn't send it to everybody. But who knows? So Ray's trying to warn us. He's saying that they're going to come, the sneaky little buggers are going to come from another angle. So keep your wits about you. Wayne says, my missus turned off the emergency alerts in settings and didn't get the alert thingy. I turned my phone off and back on, so didn't accept the shite. Paul says, did you switch the alerts off, June? Paul says, off. Mind Racer says, yes, correct, Sean. The third update was to add the code into the software, which failed in the second. There will be more in the future. So is it a particular part that failed on the bug script? Because they did get in the track and trace, didn't they? Because everybody were using it. Well, all the fruitcakes were using it. And you could see how excited. Oh, God, I've got to keep track and trace. I've got, oh, look at that. I've got to score it. 2-0, 2-0. That's kind of, I think that's the attitude that they were using with the tracking. Oh, 2-0 to me. So there'll be more in the future. So are you suggesting there, Monsignor, that my little Nokia has had one? Is that what you're telling me? But there's no sign of it. Let me have another go funk. Inbox. No. No alerts from any monsters. At all. Paul June says, no, never touched it. Albeit has same iPhone and never received one either. Very strange. Don't want the dictatorship contacting me anyhow. Forest of Dean, definitely south then. Soz. Well, we might include you, Debbie. We'll take a detour round your ass and your mates, right? And we'll grab that. So if you know any guys that can build walls down at your side, we need to get them on board, and we'll zigzag around and your gaff. Cos says 3 thumbs up, and Super Luma Hyena, good evening. I disabled emergency alerts on my Samsung phone. They will remain turned off. Exactly. Developer permissions, guys. We've been through it. It's on my face ache. It works. Martin says what we're discussing. We've been discussing the alert gig that they've foisted upon you. Because we were saying basically that not everybody got it. Ray's seemed to be sneaky, and that either that they've sent it to specific people, them that they know were waiting eagerly, excited waiting for the alert like it was New Year's Eve. Got the alert to keep them happy, and that those that they think are going to turn it off, or probably can see that they've turned things off because they can see it from the back end, are going to get them sneakily. Maybe at witching hour tonight, or just when you're not expecting it. So yes, Track and Trace pulled up the final error. The old syntax error, line 160, that has now been corrected. Right. Okay, so Ray's giving us some pretty good info there about. So Track and Trace pulled up the final error, and this. So you're saying that this had to be done, and this is why everybody had to okay it, to accept it, because now they've corrected whatever error it were. Is that what you're saying there, Ray? Ulski says, if I want the certificate of date of entry, do I only give you ask for the entry, not the birth certificate. A lot of people, when I did that video showing you mine, a lot of people that were contacting me would say it didn't work, and I said, well, okay, go through the call with me. What did you say? And straight away they're going, hey, can I have a copy of my birth certificate, please? And they got a birth certificate. Yeah, a short. So that were a major problem. People didn't realise, even though I kept saying entry, they would always ask for a BC, and it did get a bit confusing. But there were some guys who listened to what I said, did it. It cost them 11 quid. I've had a couple myself. Copies just in case. And you want the entry. Now, some people's entries, remember, have got the surname on as well. But it doesn't actually really matter when it comes down to A Lads 8. But yeah, you just ask specifically for the entry of birth. And away you go. Mind you, they did... it was a bit of an odd conversation at first. Like they weren't forthcoming. They didn't want to be forthcoming with any data. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but it prompted me to say, oh, are you suggesting that and name the chief registrar is up to losing records? Is that what you're saying to me? And then they just did it. Yeah, no problem. They sent it me. So, but that's to do with the European system that's set up, isn't it? That's controlling all our registrars now, it would appear. So, that bunker might turn mine off. There won't be a alien invasion. I mean, so what are they going to do? Oh, alert, everybody, hide under the stairs. There's an alien invasion. Everybody's going to be face out window, outside the garden, up on mountains watching. It's like, what? Remember when back in the day you used to ping an address, then the computer would receive the ping and that connection was made? Same theory. Yep, got you. Yeah, because my website still uses pings. If another website uses a link, it'll come up in mine as a pingback. So yeah, that's still in use actually, Ray. PY says, yes, Ray, ping all phones and see where they all are. Oh yeah. Think about the alert. If there is an emergency and they message the phone, it will be on Facebook and other social media websites instantly. It's a smokescreen for something else. Think about it, Sean. Yeah, I mean, the capabilities from that are huge, aren't they? Let's be frank. You're basically just dictating all terms. Because before, obviously, you'd to be sat in watching telly to get the fear that they needed to get in you, which is why they had to lock you in kennel. They had to have you consistently listening to the shit to terrify you, so you'd know other means of thought, points of reference than all the shit that were coming through the old box. So with this now, they don't necessarily have to do the lockdowns because everybody's permanently attached to it wherever you are. Well, I'll be ignoring every bit of it. So if you're all of a sudden I'm out road and everybody starts shitting themselves and screaming blue murder, I hope you leave your cars, because I wouldn't mind picking up a few BM M5s and stuff like that. So if you want to keep running off and shitting yourself, that's great. But I won't be, but I might pick up your motor. I'm only joking, of course, I wouldn't do any such thing. Anyway. But there's right, Husky says, but there is certificate of entry and then also certificate of date of entry. Well, if you are talking about yourself, then the day you were born. If you're talking about the person, which is the certificate, then you that's the date you use, isn't it? So if you're making it clear that you're speaking about the person and not your born date, so for instance, yeah. So if I fill anything in, it's the date of the registered, of the registration. So that shows them that I'm talking about specifically that, not me. They pretend they only know of the first type. So, from what we know is in '69 they stopped issuing them. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. So instead of the entry of birth, it's straight on birth certificate, and of course that has the surname added on. So if you've tried and they're not giving it yet, I don't really know what to say. Just, you could ask them for a copy of all the records they hold on you and see what comes through. Paul says gaming is a big ping. What do you mean by that? Is that what everybody's doing? Me says, your certificate of entry of birth, have you looked at back as yours is original in red, so look at the back. Your certificate of entry of birth, have you looked at back as yours is original in red, so look at the back. Sure, I get that real China. People will spread the alert. There is no need to send to phones. Yeah, but if I'm toddling around and everybody shoots themselves and runs off, I'm not following. I'm not doing anything like that at all. Your ping gives you speed. Oh, so it's tied to your bandwidth, probably then. Your ping gives you speed. Husky says, thanks. Yeah, they have been giving people a lot of run around, but it does. Anybody that weren't born before 1969 do a DSOR on the GRO. Well, you don't actually need to get to it. You don't really need to upset them like that. If you have a large ping, then your gaming experience is slow. Okay, I'm not sure I understand that lingo. Right, where are we? So this is an interesting gig, because I didn't know about this, but back in 2021, El Salvador tapped into the Bitcoin as a national currency. So that's 2021. It says El Salvador's Bitcoin expert, how is it working out? And this is from Being Crypto. El Salvador made history in 2021 when it tapped Bitcoin as a national currency. Political instability outside no, because Bitcoin isn't a cryptocurrency, right? Political instability outside. Sorry, El Salvador admitted yet. Political instability outside investment and bans on crypto can lead to uncertain outcomes. Looking at what this could mean for other countries weighing cryptocurrency as legal tender. Back in 2021, El Salvador became the first country to adopt Bitcoin as official legal tender. It was a turning point, and many people either praising or condemning the move. Lately, governments have cracked down on Bitcoin, and the current political climate in the United States and elsewhere could have a huge impact on how we talk about El Salvador and the cryptocurrencies it adopted. Since El Salvador is closely intertwined with the US politically and economically, any shifts in these arenas can have a huge effect. It will be interesting to see how El Salvador's decision pays off and whether other countries follow suit. El Salvador made a splash when it adopted Bitcoin as an official currency. The unprecedented decision stands to benefit many of its citizens. According to PricewaterhouseCoopers, around 70% of the population of El Salvador lacks access to a bank account. On the other hand, there are 9.94 million cell phone connections in the country, or among 156.5% of the population. Therefore, transitioning to a monetary system that only needs a smartphone app to work could be highly advantageous. Additionally, remittances constitute over 20% of the country's GDP, according to the World Economic Forum. So they're involved. Given how much money goes to fees for international wire transfers, Bitcoin could be an attractive alternative. So it does cancel out a lot of commerce. The parasite. El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as national currency mainly to combat poverty and aid unbanked citizens. The government ought to improve economic opportunities for citizens, allowing them access to digital currency through the smartphones. This would connect them with financial services not previously available. Additionally, it would help foster a more stable economy by reducing inflation risk. Well, if it's tied to the US dollar, why then? It must be some kind of agenda. There must be a reason why this has been done. Moreover, the adoption of Bitcoin as national currency could also curb money laundering and corruption, as the government could monitor transactions more easily. The use of Bitcoin could also attract foreign investment, further stimulating economic growth. Unfortunately, since adopting Bitcoin, El Salvador has plunged into political turmoil. Currently, there is instability in the government, conflicting interests among political parties, and an uncertain economic future. Yet, despite the instability and the spikes in gang-related violence in 2022, tourism has gone up by 30%. While new opportunities and better access to digital services are available, it's unclear whether they have caught on. El Salvador's poverty rate is still at 26.6%, actually higher than before Bitcoin became legal tender. Central bank data shows that cryptocurrencies also make up under 2% of foreign remittances, and any rise in GDP from tourism seems insignificant at present. Bitcoin's volatility has also had widespread consequences, and these have been the most jarring, with the currency's downward swings. Bitcoin's value is yet to return to the levels from September 2021 when El Salvador began buying in. The average price was around $45,000 per Bitcoin, and the price has recently rallied at about $28,000. So if you got into Bitcoin early on, you've made money. Potential conflicts of interest. Recent reporting in the Wall Street Journal noted that two key people in the rise of Bitcoin in El Salvador, Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert, interesting, launched Russia Today, launched a popular financial news show on Russian state television. They claim to have cashed in on the crypto boom. Apparently, they are the founding backers of the crypto exchange helping manage El Salvador's sovereign debt sale linked to Bitcoin. In addition, they have become advisors to the Salvadorian government on its adoption of Bitcoin and investing in crypto ventures. The couple first visited El Salvador in 2021 and appeared heavily involved in cryptocurrency-related projects in the country. Their involvement brings with it a certain degree of conflict of interest. They have positioned themselves to benefit from their investments if El Salvador's use of Bitcoin succeeds. This kind of ethical conflict is not new to crypto. In fact, the lack of regulation worldwide is one of the reasons governments are tackling it now. As more people use and abuse crypto and other investments, the more governments will need to take action. The question at present is whether these laws will help or hurt the industry. Well, the whole idea of Bitcoin is to keep that bunch of parasites out. Regulations, bans, and the future of crypto. Several states in the US have proposed bans on crypto mining. The SEC has cracked down on many companies and individuals for actions they deem illegal. Further, some politicians at the federal level have said they want to ban crypto altogether. If this hostility prevails, that could lead to innovation elsewhere. But whether El Salvador would be on the receiving end is hard to say. Still, 2 years is not a lot of time to expect full-on adoption of a currency that is still new. Most texts on cryptocurrency have yet to become available in Spanish, and Knowledge of the asset and how it works often fails to reach lower income individuals, regardless of geography. In 2022, 10,000 students learned about cryptocurrency and its many uses. This kind of education, if continued, might bolster adoption as young people begin to understand and use the tech. Looking ahead as other countries weigh crypto, El Salvador is leading the way on cryptocurrency adoption, and its success or failure could have an outsized impact on countries considering implementing a digital currency as legal tender. As we look to El Salvador's future, it's clear that the political environment has played a role in how the people talk about their national currency. Depending on how things unfold from here, other countries may be encouraged or discouraged to implement their own cryptocurrency projects. But with Bitcoin's value on the rise and the adoption underway, it may be too soon to jump to any conclusions. Interesting. So Bitcoin isn't actually what we call a cryptocurrency because it's not. No, not crypto. It is a cryptocurrency. My apologies. It's not blockchain. That's it. So Bitcoin isn't like the blockchain cryptos. The blockchain, of course, being the machine by which nothing that happens isn't recorded and accessible by the parasite. So, El Salvador, I didn't know that. I didn't know whether you knew it or not, but that's interesting, is it not? Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert. Because, of course, I've obviously looked into them two guys, and they're so well high up connected. These guys are bloodline for sure. So they've had an agenda right the way through what they call Russia Today, which, of course, is based in the US. Anyway, never mind. So I think they might have had to do a shindig move at some point because they were said to have been being a little bit naughty. What have we got here? Look at this. You know, this idea that Russia is the saving grace and it's there to attack the New World Order. Russia revives virus scam right on cue, and this is 22nd of April, so it's yesterday. Russia is bracing for a wave of highly infectious Arcturus, the newest and trendiest COVID subvariant. Bernadazov, Tanazor chief Anna Popova announced on Thursday. Fellow BRICS member India is currently experiencing an intense outbreak of this computer model, and Russia, which has already registered 4 confirmed cases, should expect its own Arcturus surge by the end of May, Popova predicted. I mean, how are they predicting this again? Have people not whacked up to what the hell's going on here? And look at Russia, they're killing everybody. Fellow BRICS have done that. A sharp uptake in hospitalisation is not anticipated, but just in case, Russia's healthcare system is ready for additional stress and overload. She reassured the public. Do we wonder how Russians care about all the dreaded virus? No, but the Russian government is dialing up the virus fear anyway, in perfect synchronisation with the WHO's decision to upgrade Arcturus to a variant of interest. And they're still trying to do a grab, aren't they? For power on emergencies. They haven't given up. But why, if you're at war, the last thing you're going to be giving a shit about is frightening everybody to death on another round of nonsense? As expected, Russian state media scrambled its scam jets. Vesti reported that specialists in the Gamaleya Centre are already conducting research to assess the biological risks of the spread of the new job. The outlet also created helpful Arcturus facts. You can reduce the risk of it by using protective masks in crowded places, washing your hands often, and thoroughly when it's not possible, treating them with antiseptic and face space. And it's back to the same old. I can't do that any further. It's disgusting. I'm not even caring about it. I mean, but you know, Russia's at war. The last thing it'll be giving a toss about is attacking its population, unless it wants to scare them to death. Because really, the war's not the gig. Something else is really going on everywhere. Right, I don't know what to make of this. But I do know that these guys these days that make these masks that, for instance, you saw in Lord of the Rings, King Kong, all this this souped up image bonanza film industry that's got going. The masks that they can create now are just so ridiculously lifelike, it's quite ridiculous. And so you've got all over, so haven't you, clones, they've all got doubles, they've all got this, they've all got that. But now it seems to be that people are saying, well, look, a lot of these figures have got masks on. Now, of course, the extreme aspect of that, the side that you're getting from these Q-toids, is, oh, the real one for his sins has been killed and we've just put in an actor. Now, another interesting factoid that they're pushing is that the reason why... So they're saying that the white hats are doing this, like putting these ridiculously stupid leaders up, to show you out there how ridiculous this shit show has become. To try and trigger you. To wake the hell up. Stop shitting yourself. Stop staying on the merry-go-round. So that's the sorts of data that's about, if you're looking into this idea of why they're using stand-ins, why these people are saying they've got clones. This is the actor playing Joe Biden, it says, and this is from WLT report. Is playing Joe Biden just revealed his mask. Now, I think this is an American publication, but look up there on the old ads, Accrington Unsold Eco. I mean, look, these are algorithms now, everything's just so connected. We're looking on an American rag, and they've connected me to our good old Accrington and picked up some data. So they're saying here that he's revealed, this guy, this actor, that he's got a mask. And I think the image is he's scratching the back of his neck, and what looks like the skin is folded around underneath whatever, the latex or whatever it actually is. It says, yes, we're going there. No, I have never ascribed to the theory that all these people are dead, executed at Gitmo, and actors and body doubles who played them. I haven't seen the evidence for that. But I have seen some evidence that these very sophisticated masks do exist, and I just saw some major new evidence about the Biden mask tonight. So I'm sharing with you, and you can make your own decision after you see this. Judge for yourself. The new video is going absolutely viral after the Biden mask seems to be exposed. Take a look for yourself. Let's have a look.
And he was a very conservative guy. He was very, very...
Oh my gosh, that's a mask.
Oh!
Holy cow.
Well, now then, so I didn't even look at the video. Well, what do you say to that? That was clearly his skin came back all rippled. Now, is it just because he's such an out-codger? Or what? But then you went a bit further down, and it gave you some images of the real Joe Biden. Eh? They've gone. Oh, don't say this isn't the one that I had before. It might be. Or maybe there's just... And, oh, it looks like they've added a lot of stuff. That. So, now, I have actually looked back at Joe Biden under Obama when he was the vice president. And I have to say, that's what he looked like. Innit? That's Joe Biden when he was under Obama. Yeah? That face is distinct, isn't it? So you've got him with his mouth open, you've got him with his mouth closed. Yeah? Slightly to the side. But this is the one we've got now. Okay, let's go for it. We've got to give him some age. Them earlobes are not the same. Look at those earlobes there. And then look. Well, could be. Don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because obviously the guy's aged himself. But that's what Joe Biden looked like all the times you saw him. When Obama were in the presidency. Is that him? Is that him? Is that him with a mask on? Why would they do that? To enhance his age? To make him look stupid? Is he acting this stupidity? I don't know. I don't know what to think. But I actually didn't see that video, so we're actually watching it now. It looks even less potentially fake than it perhaps could have done. Now, this is something I found today, which is interesting because all I've been concentrating on at the moment is obviously we're looking into this method of taking back control of your estate. I know I haven't spoken of it much because I don't want to put out false information. I don't want to put out because it's a move that's moving on, and the more I go with it, it's concurrent. It's making sense. It's all making sense, but there are some real serious issues you've got to start to come to terms with and understanding if you're going to take on that role. So that's what we're looking at the moment. So it's going very well, but just in looking at this, it came up that the fact, going off the old school ideas, that the oceans were the place themselves that were actually free of all law of the land, and 3 mile out you're into international waters. But I found this House of Lords International Relations and Defence Committee second report of session 221-22, UNCLOS, which is the United Nations, the law of the sea in the 21st century. Now, if I'm right, you can't see all that, can you? Right. So now what I need to do is, hang on, done. I need to, it's open, so I should be able to edit it. Let me think. But you can see it, can you? Let's have a look. So I thought this were interesting because obviously it means that they're carving the whole thing up again, but they're including the oceans in this. You can't really see it all, can you? Let me have a look. Edit. So why won't that edit? That is supposed to edit. Hang on. There we go. Got it. Okay. Should I just make that a little bit smaller? Right, I think we're in business. Should I transition? Do I come off here? And there we go. You should be able to see this now. Because I haven't looked at it fully. So working for the UN on something called UNCLOS, the law of the sea in the 21st century. Ordered to be printed 10th February 22 and published 1st of March 22, published by the authority of the House of Lords. International Relations and Defence Committee. The International Relations and Defence Committee is appointed by the House of Lords in each session to investigate the United Kingdom's international relations and defence policy. So again, defence is no offence, remember that. Membership, this is why they're tying into all these foreign contracts, these foreign agreements, forbidden at common law level by the Magna Carta. But they're doing all this through the Lords and the Commons. And of course, there must be some skullduggery going because the Lords, by their definition, are obviously operating, twisting common law. But the governments are just operating on the equity side, so of course it's acceptable. And Magna Carta doesn't really infer equity. The members of the International Relations and Defence Committee are, and I thought this were interesting, Lord Alton of Liverpool, Lord Anderson of Swansea, Baroness Anna Leigh of St John's, and she's the chair, Baroness Blackstone, Lord Boateng, well, hasn't he been up for naughty stuff? Look at the people we accept in these positions and then whinge about it. Lord Campbell of Pittenweem, Baroness Fall, Baroness Rawlins, Lord Stirrup, Baroness Sugg, Lord Teverson, Lord Wood of Anfield. So you got two there from the old Scouse land. I mean, the Duke of Westminster and his clans, Liverpool won and all the nonsense, really took over Liverpool back in the day. And Liverpool is never going to be the same again unless the old Scousers remember the Northerners. So, yeah, declaration of interest. Well, you can see that I've gone through them all on my website so that they're fixed. So there we go. Let's have a look what else did I say. So chapter 1, the development of UNCLOS, timeline of the deployment of UNCLOS, the structure of UNCLOS, so that's going through contents. Let's have a look at what it's saying. Summary. 40 years ago, states came together in the United Nations to agree an ambitious and comprehensive framework for the governance of the world's oceans and seas. Can you see how ocean and sea are different? So I come across this because I was looking into the difference between sea, S-E-A, and sea, S-E-E. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed, I have to say. And again, the etymological descriptions don't go any further back than the Middle Ages, unless some of the Germanic may. The negotiation and ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, was a considerable achievement. It secured 168 signatories, including the European Union, thus demonstrating its widespread support. The key achievements of UNCLOS were to standardise states' claims to maritime zones and the resources within them, and provide states with mechanisms for settling disputes when they arise. The fact that most maritime boundaries have been agreed by neighbouring states and there have been few formal disputes is testament to the widespread support for UNCLOS by states. Our inquiry set out to determine whether UNCLOS remains fit for purpose 40 years after its agreement. We heard praise for the convention because of its framework nature, which allows for the development of more detailed regulation and guidance to be delegated to other international bodies such as the International Maritime Organization. This means that UNCLOS has been considered a living treaty which can change to reflect modern circumstances, and this is now being tested by new concerns and new uses of the sea. There was very limited appetite for any attempt to renegotiate UNCLOS, not least because this would risk diluting or losing provisions which are vital to the interests of the UK and its like-minded partners. UNCLOS is not perfect, however, and the evidence we received suggests that if UNCLOS is not supplemented, nor its provisions further developed, it will no longer be fit for purpose in the 21st century. The provisions of UNCLOS are not always compiled in practice, despite its adoption by most states. An overarching challenge is that of enforcement. This is a weak point of all international law and is even more challenging in the maritime domain because the law of the sea insists upon two central principles of the freedom of the high seas and the exclusive jurisdiction of the flag state. On the high seas, the area covering most of the world's oceans, only flag state has jurisdiction over vessels, except in very limited circumstances. Remember, you are a ship. The person is a ship. Yeah, so we're talking, although you look at this and people go, it's just shipping and dip and all that stuff. No, this is how they're dealing with you. These are the laws that are being formed dealing with these titles, except in very limited circumstances. In practice, however, the extensive use of flag convenience, or states with limited domestic regulation, enforcement capacity and few criteria for registration, has led to a jurisdictional vacuum on the high seas. We call on the government to commit to tackling this problem, which has significant implications for maritime security and the protection of human rights at sea. There are also gaps in UNCLOS. In some cases, this is because issues such as climate change and rising sea levels were not well understood, or new technologies such as maritime autonomous vehicles were only developed after UNCLOS was drafted. Other issues have intensified since UNCLOS was drafted and its provisions are no longer adequate to address them. These include human rights at sea, labour protections, maritime security and the regulation of access to certain economic resources, such as those on the deep seabed, which have only recently become accessible due to new technologies. We identify several areas in which action by the UK government could have a significant positive impact on the effective international governance of the sea. First, the government must work more closely with like-minded partners via the International Maritime Organisation and other international bodies to address some of the regulatory gaps in the law of the sea. This will be particularly important for the development of regulations governing the use of maritime autonomous vehicles. As a leading developer of autonomous technologies, the UK must engage closely with the IMO to develop guidance and, in the meantime, act as an example to other states through its own practice. Second, where there is a need for more extensive supplementation of UNCLOS, the government should work with like-minded partners to advance new international agreements. We urge the government to consider advancing an agreement to address human rights abuses at sea. Such an agreement must take a holistic approach to human rights. The government will therefore need to widen its focus to issues beyond labour protection and encompass matters such as physical and sexual crimes committed at sea and mass migration by sea. In exploring such an agreement, it should be invested. Well, if they're going to get involved even more with that on the sea, they're the ones pushing the mass migration in the first place, so they're going to only operate it in accordance to expand that and give it more clout. In exploring such an agreement, it should investigate mechanisms including port state control, sanctions and mechanisms by which individual victims can bring human rights abusers to justice. The negotiation of new agreements will require the UK to engage more closely with other parties at UNCLOS. You can see that, look at that, in victims. So you won't even be able to touch them in sea. You won't be able to touch them when they come on land because they'll be victims. They're just tying up the state completely in nonsense. The negotiation of new agreements will require the UK to engage more closely with other parties to UNCLOS. The UK should reconsider its current position that the meetings of the state parties to UNCLOS do not provide an appropriate forum to discuss matters of substance. This will also be important for ensuring agreement on the interpretation of UNCLOS in light of circumstances not envisaged when it was drafted. A clear example of where state agreement on the interpretation of UNCLOS is urgently needed is the question of whether baselines and associated maritime entitlements should be fixed in response to rising sea levels. Nonsense. No evidence at all. The UK could pay. They have something on the Thames, a storm that's been there like since 1500s, and it's never changed. The UK could play a key role in advocating and facilitating such agreement. This will be vital not only to provide certainty for small island states, which face an existential threat from sea level rise, but also for the UK and its overseas territories. Third, the government must do more to uphold activity of the key principles of UNCLOS and encourage other states to do the same. See, this UK, it's got nothing to do with England or Scotland, it's something else, and Charles wants to be the King of Scotland and the UK. So he wants to be King of Scotland, which means he can also be the King of this. The WEF, the United Nations, the Club of Rome, the Bilderberg Group, the Round Table, Committee of 300. But of course he'll be a figurehead if he's the head. I don't think, well, he'd be a figurehead, let's put it to that. We are encouraged that the UK is already doing this, for example, by the Royal Navy's application of the principle of equivalence to maritime autonomous vehicles, which ensures that the use of these new technologies upholds the core principles of UNCLOS. And what are they? And through its efforts to uphold the right to innocent passage by undertaking freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea and around the Crimean Peninsula. In other areas, however, the government is falling short. It's not clear, for example, why the government has not signed the 1986 UN Convention on Conditions for Registration of Ships. Action by the UK to sign the convention would strengthen the requirement for ships to have a genuine link with a flag state and help to mitigate the maritime security and human rights concerns relating to flags of convenience. The government should also tighten the UK's own conditions of ship registry to act as an example internationally. The government must carefully consider whether proposed domestic legislation is in compliance with UNCLOS, in particular the Nationality and Borders Bill. We are significant concern that its so-called turnaround policy for maritime migration may contravene the duty to render assistance provided in an Article 98 of UNCLOS. The form in which the bill reached the House of Lords risks undermining the perception that the UK is a strong proponent of the rules-based international order. The government must also ensure it actively supports developing states through capacity building and resourcing so they too can uphold the principles of UNCLOS through law enforcement and environmental protection activities. So if this is the House of Lords, it's telling the government, isn't it? So it does have an hand in equity. That's interesting. Fourth, the government must continue to advocate for the protection of the marine environment and promote a more careful approach to the extraction of living and non-living resources. We are pleased to hear that the government is advocating for an ambitious agreement in biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. We encourage the government to take a similar stance towards the protection of non-living resources in the deep seabed. Pressure from other states means the International Seabed Authority may be rushed into the development of regulations for deep seabed mining. It is therefore vital for the UK to engage activity in international discussions to ensure environmental protection is prioritised. The government should also push for greater coordination between UNCLOS and the United Nations Framework Convention on the Wind and Rain. A process on the issue of land-based resources and pollution, including greenhouse gas emissions. Oh my God. Greenhouse gas emissions. Where is mine? It's gone. No, it's not. So, let's have a look. No! That's not it. My earth map's gone. I've lost it. I don't know why I've knocked that off. I was just going to check. We were going to have a check for these greenhouse gas emissions again, because we've all seen, we see it every time we look, that it's not going on anywhere where they're putting these taxes in. It's going on everywhere that they're not. Interesting. As a major maritime power, the UK has a strong role to play in the development and maintenance of the law of the sea. It must, along with its partners and allies, set up to meet 21st century challenges of UNCLOS to ensure its continued relevance and utility for at least another 40 years. So there's the summary of the House of the Lords, the Leaping Lords. Around 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, and more than 96% held in oceans. 80% of the volume of international trade in goods is carried out by sea, and at any one time there are more than 30 million people at sea. Wow. What about them at lost at sea? This year marks the 40th anniversary of Society United, blah 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 blah. So before UNCLOS, the oceans were largely governed by the 17th century concept of the freedom of the seas. Coastal states had rights over a narrow band of territorial sea adjacent to the land, roughly equivalent to the distance a cannonball could be fired from the shore. Hence the original territorial sea limit of 3 nautical miles. But all waters beyond this were considered international waters, and all states could use and traverse them freely. There's where the empire is. On the oceans. It always has been. And everything we know today is that system encouraged trespassing. Subversively, of course, to get not to rattle your cages onto the land. In the 20th century, states began to extend the jurisdiction over the sea. Some states, including the United States, Chile, Peru, Ecuador, extended their control to 200 nautical miles. Others extended it to 12 nautical miles. In the 50s, negotiations began in the United States to try and standardise these claims. Okay. So, this UNCLOS is bringing an end to that chaotic situation, it says. So I'm going to put this up after, for anybody that may be interested. But remember always that these jurisdictions of law, so they have an effect. They have an effect. Some of the safety of life at sea, or SOLAS, that's another term. IMO Convention in 58 that became. Pollution from ships, that's MARPOL. And they give off some ridiculous amounts of nonsense. Exhaust stuff. So yeah, I mean, that might be interesting. It probably does have some relevance and bearing on law, but there you have the Leaping Lords messing around with that. Let's have a look. So there you go. What do you guys got to say? Right, so can you just send an FOI to the GRO? Why an FOI? It's already a right. It's yours. You have a right to those a copy of those records, that's your token. Is the fact that you've got the BC, is the number. It's important for charts. You don't have to get clever about it, FOIs, and just talk to them. Say, this is what I need. Crack on. Where are we? Why 1969? Do you know, I can't remember. But they did a lot of things in the 1960s. Just as they did in the 1930s. As they did the Land Act in 1925. And previous to that, the year before, an act on animals and farm animals and other creatures. All connected. This is how they see you IDing as the birth certificate. And you're being played that way, you're being herded that way, which is why I've just looked at that law of the sea, because again, that is tied in to this new shit they're doing on the equity, which is the birth certificate. Where are we? But Mark says apostille long form birth certificate only contains Christian name and it has the registration date too. Yes, that's what I have and what I presented on the and your mum and dad don't sign that. There's no signatures of your parents on that either. That's important. Where are we? IBM covers sensors for everyone on Earth. Communications companies cover everyone on Earth. Finance covers everyone on Earth. Software companies covers everyone on Earth. Connect them all and you have a perfect platform for CBDC. Digital currencies. Usky says, that is why you buy all caps as legal company and use that legal entity. Usky again says, you heard of Corbus Gloss Channel. His letter that he reads out subtly alludes to using LTD company for your legal stuff. Yeah, you can use it as a mask, a proxy. Body mantra. Hello to you. Oh, you think you're fantastic and amazing, do you, gammon? You got a license for that. Do you, gammon? I don't know what you mean there, no China. Nine Nature says, add the universal monthly payment to all with a do good get paid. Do bad lose CBDC, further updates will be sent out to update all platforms and keep it running. Well, I also learned that the reason why they're getting excited about gas now is because they're building big turbines underground everywhere. They're going to need gas to feed the electricity systems used by this smart city grid. So they're not doing it for climate, they're taking it off you. That's what they're doing. They're taking it off you. And they knew this 50 years ago. So why did the housing associations upgrade the properties as contracted in the deed by putting them all on gas alone? Add the universal monthly payment. I've done that. Body says blockchain is a decentralized database. Well, blockchain, as I understand it, is the means by which nothing that happens in there isn't recorded and accessible by the state. And it was set off by that guy McAfee, who obviously would play a game. That was his baby, blockchain. Do you think the banking heads will allow untraceable transactions to run alongside traceable CBDC? Yeah, of course they will. They have to. There's two systems being set up. You don't think they're going to pull themselves under this system, do you? For goodness sake, folks. Oh, no, 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 no. This is about the elites keeping the world they know. That's what it's all about, this. Their system is not this system. This is for the minions, the guide, the golem, as they'll have you classed as very soon. Yeah, this is what it's all about. They want to keep the world they've known since dot. And there's too many folk. See, it's not that there's too many folk, but the technology that they have to put out to pull their system together also gives us the opportunity to do battle with it. But not enough people today that are tech savvy are operating on their own. They're operating for the system because that's where the money is. You know, gone are the days, like when I grew up, there were a boffin on every street. Every street had a mad boffin. So on my street, quite a way down, there were people that they were testing weather all the time, so they were collecting rain, they had all these things out. They were in there doing that was their gig. A guy around corner, he was obsessed with electronics. And I used to know all these people because I were intrigued in what they were doing. But today, very few people do that. I'm into crypto, it's digital energy, says me. Millions will lose millions, economic collapse similar to the Wall Street crash 1929. This is coming to a cinema near you scenario. Go. Yeah, well, that's the fear side of it, isn't it? Scare everybody half to death and make them panic and make them act contrary to how they would normally do it. So there's a lot of wind and piss in there as well, Ray, let's be quite frank. You can't lose what you haven't got, says Debbie. On ledger you have, says me. Me says, glad I bought in Bitcoin at 13k with paper with ink on it has been around since 2009 and I can't be stopped. But will paper with ink on it keep being printed out of thin air? That's why a pint used to cost. That's why a pint used to cost. I'm not sure I get what you mean there, my old chap. 75p, but now it's £4.50. Oh, you mean a pint? Oh, I'll cry my eyes out when it went to 120. God, you know, saying how long? 90s. I just don't drink it anymore, so I don't care. But I did get a Peroni it the other week. It's £6. I nearly had an heart attack. I think it's just dehydration, says the cause. Because again says I take my earlobes on and off every day. Perfectly normal. Holy cow. Hello, holy cow. Has had cosmetic surgery. So the ears can change from pulling the skin back. I see. We're talking about... Okay. Now we've got you. I take my earlobes on and off every day. Perfectly normal. Because of you being naughty. Holy cow says he's had cosmetic surgery. See, I don't know. I have no idea. I came across it and I was like, what? Is that? I didn't even know that's what would be going around. I've seen the clone stuff. I've seen all the other stuff. The copies. Which we know they have anyway. But I've not seen the mask idea before. So I thought, well, we'll put that by the crew and see what comes out. Never even checked it out before. That looks bi. BI. Obvious that there are 2 or more of them, says LFX. Cos says, hold the control button and use your mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Is he talking to me about... Oh, I know. Hold the control button. Oh, control button. Hang on. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. No, scrolling up and down that, cause. Anyway, not to worry. Never even checked it out before. That looks okay. Hold the control. Unclos, thank you, Sean, for pointing this out. Says Untitled. You know what? I found it today. I thought interesting. How low it's there, and the oceans now are coming under. So they're changing the old 1600s treaties. The idea, because we were talking about that only in the week. Aviation law, another aviation law. Yeah, if you go into heaven in the system, you're under aviation law. So I've been told. Aviation, the Holy See, Holy Heaven, or Sky. The fourth trust. Quite possibly. Manuel says, Holy Cow and LFX, have you considered that none of them is Putin and that they're all lookalikes that have volunteered to have plastic surgery to look like Vlad the Impaler? Thumbs up, says the Untitled. Holy See. Exactly. So that's what I was looking into. The difference between S-E-A, S-E-E. And I was rather surprised. In fact, if you like, we can actually have a look at that. So, oh, well, have I got Brave Razor up? I didn't even know I got that up. Where are we? Can you see that? Yep. So let's have a look. C. Middle English, sen from Old English, Sion. Anglian, Sean. Oh! Be or become aware of by means of the eye, look, behold, also perceive, mentally understand, experience, visit, inspect. Proto-Germanic, Seewannen, source from Old Saxon, Seehan, Middle High German, Seehen, Old Frisian, Seer, Middle Dutch, Seen, It's reconstructed the word secu, to see. It is attested by Old English as being able to see with the eyes, faculty of sight, not blind. English see has been used in many senses. Middle Ages for see, behold, in the imagination of drink. What did we? I did find something rather interesting. No, I'm not going there. We'll go on. Why is it coming up with the same? It should be Holy Old English consecrated sacred godless. Proto-Germanic Halaga, source Old Norse Danish Helig, Holy, Old Saxon Helig, Helig, Helags. The primary Christian meaning is not possible to determine, but probably it was that was preserved all intact, transgressed and violated. English Sea Health. Now that's interesting. Because it's the health script that is like a big backdrop to the new money system, if I'm right. That's not what I actually brought up, because it also said, what was it? Oh no, that was, Holy See, a bishopric. So why is that not coming up? But that was quite interesting, because Antichrist also came in there. The word. It's just not coming up. The name. No. Alright, forget that. Sorry, chaps. It's not actually coming up with what it came up for when I looked at it this week. This could mean Vlad is already dead or he's been hunted. Well, it doesn't look anything like he used to do. And he did get in a bit of trouble, I remember, back in the day as well. So nothing would surprise me. Saddam, when they put a hit out on him, he had 11 or 12 lookalikes. Yeah, all these back to Rome. Yeah, but Rome hasn't been controlled by Romans for a very long time. And by the use of it, they've managed to gain control of the fruits of the land, and through the trusts, the national trusts, all these national parks, have gained control of the use of the land. So they're putting down with what we just looked at, the water, the sea, the oceans. They're pulling the whole lot into this fourth trust. Golden Wide. It's not good, people. Hydroloop. Well, Hydroloop didn't really go anywhere, did it? And it did look like it were them nut jobs like that Nasira Gazira or whatever the hell it is, and that Christian. What's he doing now? That Mark Christian guy. He's. I watched something. He did a couple, and I was like, "What? Where are you, lad?" This could mean Vlad is already. All these back to home. Hydroloop, yeah. Equals water turnover. Yeah, I haven't gone back to that actually. Me says, wonder if John Wayne, yeah, you will. Debbie says, just that I was born in '69, so my ears pricked up. Yeah, they stopped a lot of things. Grammar, Latin, all sorts in the 60s. LFX minder valuably considered now beyond reasonable doubt, IMO. Me says, using legal entity creates a liability, an obligation under legislation as commerce to fund Ukraine war. Where we have identified any third-party copyright information, you will need to obtain permission from the copyright holders concerned. All one says G. Maxwell and R. Branson tried to take over control of the sea via the project called Tarama. G. Maxwell. Who's G. Maxwell? Ghislaine? I don't know. Who are you talking about? Martin says, I remember when it was 25p a pint when I was underage. Debbie says, I used to get a bottle of Newcastle Brown and meat and potato pie for £1. So we used to go to something called the New Era Disco every Wednesday, and everybody that were anybody was there. I could see clearly at the time, but nobody else could, that the evangelicals had set that up, and they were busy shafting anybody that had a bit of a lead and a following going on there back in them days. So the trick then was a bottle of Old English cider, or what the other one? I forgot. Woodpecker, a straw, and an anodine. The anodine you bag down because that thins your blood, and the straw, when you shut the cider, you were lucky if you could stand up. Never mind getting into the disco. Anyway, we did that often. That were our game. Debbie says, I used to get a bottle of Newcastle. Yeah, I've done that. Has anyone managed to get hold of a copy of the Oath, Charlie? No. See, the consultation they'll have given it would have been to the aristocracy. We're not really in on that, in all fairness. And common law is about land, and so unless you've got land, a land interest, you can't really be calling on common law. It's all equity, isn't it, at the level of the government. Where we are identified any third-party copyright information, we need to get. Sorry, I've done that one. Been waiting for a copy of it, but not seeing one yet. No, it's not coming out, is it? They're acclaiming it. Everything they're doing at the moment is acclaiming. So they're acclaiming her queen, not queen consort. Even though she's divorced, he's divorced. And last guy that married a divorcee had to abdicate. So what I'm thinking, you can see there, it's nothing like it used to be. He says he's King of Scotland and the UK. What the hell's happened to England? Right? Are you accepting it? They're acclaiming it. That's what they're doing. They're acclaiming it. Acclaiming it. Acclaiming it. Surely that's not constitutional. We're up to ourselves. It's not constitutional. And it's the Duke of Norfolk. He's the man, the Earl Marshal. It's his job to uphold constitutional continuity. All one, the debit. I think it's going to be released afterwards. Very naughty. Oh, of course. Surely that's not constituted, isn't it? He's in leagues with it. No, he's compromised guy. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, there were even a video said to be going around of him getting raped by Comey, the American guy. You know, this is how badly compromised this guy is. I June, there's no cost of crisis as a mass money shift to poor to wealthy. It's being pulled from your trust. Every dealing you have, says Mike. Hello, Mike. LFX, New Era. New Era Club was brilliant. I miss Aki. You wouldn't miss Aki, mate. It's shit. Andrew Gill, Wednesday night at the Lodestar, Ribchester. Oh my word. Yes, yes, yes. So many of the early punk bands played there. I used to go there for my Sunday, not when it was Lodestar, of course, but it was called the Tablet. And I used to go there for my Sunday steak. And then it was beautiful. It was so quaint, English cottage, English pub cottage kind of thing. And they broke it up, turned it into houses. I mean, it doesn't look unpleasant. It looks nice. England is ruled by the Bank in London. Was run by the late Evelyn's Rothschild and the picture see Prince Charles being prodded by Evelyn. Well, there you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about all puffed out. LFX says the new king in cartoon world has brought in the new welfare system. It's welfare. Welfare. Well, on that bombshell, what can I say except till the next time.
electronic